Welcome back to another podcast, Culinary Connections Distribution Dialogues, where we dive in to food service distribution, not just as a distributor, but on the brand side, the farm, the artisan, to understand what are the needs, what are the challenges that brands face within food service distribution. I think it's important for distributors to know the real challenges that new and emerging or existing producers are faced with. What we may not think is a barrier to entry into distribution because we've got a distributor hat on actually does, in fact, create a barrier. So, throughout the season or the upcoming episodes, we're going to make sure to bring on a mix of people that produce food, that get into the food service distribution channels. With me today, I've got Brian Fiscalini of Fiscalini Farms. We got introduced earlier this summer. It's been great getting to know Brian and Laura and Fiscalini and what they've been doing. I got first introduced long before that, back when I started my career at Atlanta Foods, which is now GFI. I remember selling the San Joaquin Gold, and lo and behold, here we are, and we have the chance to connect. And so, Brian, why don't you give us a little bit of background on you, who you are, and what you're up to these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm Brian Fiscalini, fourth generation dairy farmer in Modesto, California, second generation cheesemaker, trying to continue the tradition that our family has for taking care of our cows, our people, and our land. Um, really trying to grow and expand the artisan cheese company that we created about 23 years ago now. My father John had the passion for taking our taking our step into creating a product on the farm, which is a big risk for your average dairy farmer. But we turned out to make a few good cheeses and do okay, and we're still going at it today.
And just so we're clear, you're not too far away from the milking parlor, I would imagine, judging by some cinder block and some of the ancillary. It's not by any means bad, but you can hear there's uh, something going on.
Yeah, there are cows being milked about 20 feet away from where I'm at right now, so you might hear a few noises of air or water, or cows out there maybe mooing, but it's actually very peaceful when you're here.
So, being fourth generation, did you know growing up as a kid, was this something that you wanted to get into? Did you want to carry on the family legacy? Did you have hints of, because you got your MBA too, you went to school, you did some internships outside of California, or yeah, outside of Cali. Did you believe like this was meant to be from, high school, and, you knew the path, or did you have to get convinced into being in it?
As a kid growing up, whenever I'd have friends come over to the house, they would always think how cool it must be for you to grow up on a farm. You got tractors and cows and open spaces. And while all of that is true, when the friends go home, then the work starts. So it's a lot of hard work. We really enjoy what we do. There was a brief period of time where, I wasn't sure that the dairy farming 365 day a year, 24-hour, schedule of caring for livestock was 100% what I wanted to do. So I dipped my toe a little bit in the water in the accounting world. I'm not a CPA, but I was on that track, taking the necessary classes to become a CPA. But it seems like all roads lead back to the farm. Um, there's something special about caring for animals. I mean, it's stressful, it's hectic. There's days that everything goes great, and you're on a high. And then there's days when things don't go great. It's tough because this is our livelihood. It's our lifestyle, and it's not a 9 to 5. I mean, at 5 o'clock, there's no punching out. It doesn't stop. But, I think that's with anything that we do that we're passionate about. The difference is, livestock, they truly don't stop. They need to be fed, they need to be cared for, they need to be milked. There's cows giving birth. There's just certain things about this lifestyle that you have to be ready to answer the call at 2 a.m. When you're needed. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
very
say
glad to do that.
farming for a lot of people, whatever part of the ag process you're in that you help get food to the table, not everybody understands that it's, you don't get a 2 week vacation, that, that work doesn't just stop at 5 p.m. Um, Certainly ag has evolved and become more technological and tools in place and the way that you communicate with team members. But I spent a lot of time in Nashville. Just north of Nashville was the ultra low pasteurization dairy farm operation. And I remember visiting him, a guy named Randy Groves. And, he had a farm called Tennessee Real Milk, and we helped him get from 100 cows to 500 cows and helped him scale and reach, some new outlets. But as soon as you walked into the milking barn, there was a canvas painting that said, my heart is in farming, but my ass is in debt. And he's like, I've got to milk every single day, rain, snow, sleet, shine, doesn't matter. I've milked with a broken leg, obviously carrying on a family legacy. Talk a little bit about like what it is on a day-to-day basis on the farm for you. I mean, you're plugged in all the time, in various aspects. You're not just milking, but you're worrying about schedules and you're worrying about where cheese goes and all of the things.
We're no different than, while it is, it's a dairy farm, right? It's very busy. There's a lot of work to do every day. It's not that much different than any other business where you're only as good as the people that you have around you. And we've got a really incredible, dedicated team here. We've got 2 employees that my grandfather hired. These guys have spent their entire adult life working for my grandfather, my father, and now myself. And when you have that type of loyalty around you, it doesn't necessarily mean that the work is any easier, but it's more enjoyable because you know that there are people that are going to be with you until you say it's time to hang it up for the day. And that's something you can't buy. I was so fortunate to walk into that. 2 employees that they're getting ready, they're close to retirement age, but when you can consider that these guys saw me grow up as a kid running around the dairy, and now we're working together toward this goal of producing, high quality milk, taking great care of the cows, and making award-winning cheese. So there's a lot of rewarding parts of this business as well, and some of the people that we have in our business that are just super dedicated and willing to do whatever needs to be done. It makes that heavy lift feel a little bit lighter. So if that answers the question a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the farm in general right now. How many acres are on the farm? There's a difference in being a farmstead cheese operation and just making really high quality cheese, right? Talk about, I guess, the nuts and bolts of the business as it stands right now, in how you guys approach the market and create the product.
Yeah, so our dairy herd size has fluctuated a little bit over the last 20 to 30 years. Right now, we're currently milking 1,400 cows in a robotic milking operation. We farm slightly over 500 acres, and what we do with that farmland is we grow crops that our cows are going to consume as feed. We grow corn silage and wheat hay, and then we make small artisan batches of cheese right here on the farm. We also have a renewable energy project where we convert cow manure into vehicle fuel. So we're doing that at the moment. We're just kicking that project off. Although for the last 15 years, we were converting the manure from our dairy cows into electricity. So we've really tried to be on the cutting edge and on the forefront of sustainability. And we've been in business for over 110 years, and I think our goal is to be in business for the next 110. So we're looking out for the next generation, not only the next generation of Fiscalinis, but the next generation of consumers and farmers, and how do we make this business interesting and exciting and innovative, and keep the next generation wanting to come back and keep people excited about agriculture.
And there's a lot of people that don't understand, you just go to the store and you see a piece of cheese and you don't really understand how it starts and how it ends, right? It ends in the case or maybe on the burger, in an ingredient for a composed dish. And often, I think one of the challenges that uh, any artisan producer faces is what's your price on cheddar, right? If you're talking to a chef and you're immediately judged on the actual price of a particular product without actually matching apples to apples, or maybe you are, but it's still just a price decision. Talk a little bit about how much milk an animal produces and really like what it takes to get to a finished good.
Yeah, that's a great question. And just to try to answer the last piece that you said there, um, productively or accurately, I should say. On our farm, we have a wide variety of the amount of milk that an animal will give. That's dependent on age, the stage of their lactation, their genetic potential, so many things. But to try to make it simple, our cows average about 11 gallons of milk produced per day. And out of 11 gallons of milk, we'll get slightly over 1 pound of cheese. So there's a byproduct, and that's the whey that is produced. And what we do is we recycle that whey and use it for cattle feed. But when you think about maybe a cheesemaker that doesn't have their own cows on site and what they're going to do with these byproducts, or the sheer input to output of 11 gallons of milk to a little over 1 pound of cheese. I mean, it takes a lot to produce those 11 gallons of milk. So we've always tried to just use everything that we have on farm, not waste anything. And when you speak to the chefs and the food service industry, I'm actually pleasantly surprised about how well the chefs and the food service industry understands the production of food. I think in a lot of cases, chefs understand it more so than the retailers or than distributors even, because the chef's creating food as well. So they know what it takes. They know that I've got these 10 ingredients and I need to make it into this dish, and there's going to be pieces of this ingredient that I'm not going to be able to use. Can I use it in another dish? Can I get creative? And so that's why I love the food service industry. I like going out to eat, with my family. Meat chefs, they're so loyal once they meet you and once they become a fan of your product and your story. I love that part of the business, being able to share the story with people who have their own story and can relate.
I think that's a critical part. If you're a sales professional in distribution, is you're carrying the story on for you as the producer, which is why it's important for ride-alongs and sales training and tasting and education, because the more you know, the more you're able to educate the chef, right? If I'm selling your product, my thought pattern too is when I'm approached with a price objection is, well, chef, did you know that how much feed does it take to feed an animal per day?
Yeah, I mean, our highest producing Holstein cows are eating 140 pounds of feed a day.
So 140 pounds, and there's a cost associated with that, times what it takes to get the 11 gallons to produce the 1 pound of cheese. Then you've got labor to go make the cheese. By the way, we've got to package it. Then it gets on a truck. Let's back up. It's aged, a few months to 18 months to 2 years, pending the type of cheese, right? You got carry costs. Then you've got the freight to get it to the distributor. The distributor receives the product, then it goes and slots the product. Then the customer puts the order in. Then someone goes and picks the product, puts it on a truck. Another person delivers the product. And really, when you think about the amount of hands that touch that product on, it's actually crazy how inexpensive we can get a product to a consumer given all of those steps along the process. And you become more valuable to the chef and to the farm partner when you have that approach and not just like selling a piece of paper. Hey, chef, you should buy this piece of cheese. Hey, sell the story, sell the difference, sell the why that, about Brian and Laura and the fourth generation and the 14 head of 100 head of cow and all the wonderful things that happen within the business. All that said, cheese making is a relatively new endeavor for Fiscalini. You guys have been generational dairy farms, and now you're in the cheese making. Where did that inspiration come from? Was it you? Was it a family? How did that come about?
It comes back to one of the more important stories in the history of our business. And what it was my father, John, when he was a young boy, he recalls this story of him walking through the grocery store with my grandfather, Matthew, and they're having a conversation about where is the milk that was produced on our dairy in the grocery store. And my grandfather tried his best to give an answer, but he said, it's going to be in this product over here with milk, from other farms as well. And my dad just said, well, how come it doesn't say our name on it? And my grandfather had to explain, well, we sell the raw fluid milk to a company that pasteurizes it and turns it into another product. And so I think that pride of ownership that my father was starting to discuss at a fairly young age, and him not wanting to lose the ownership, that we did so much of the hard work on the farm. We cared for the animal, we milked the animal, we cooled the milk down. We kept the environment on the farm as clean as possible to make sure that the milk was as wholesome as it could be. And then someone picks it up, and your name is nowhere to be found on it. So, that was the inspiration behind why my father started making cheese on the farm. And then specifically, why cheese? Why not bottled milk, or why not ice cream? We're of Swiss Italian descent. So, 5-6 generations ago of Fiscalinis came to the United States from Switzerland. And Switzerland is known for making some very, very good cheeses, some of the best in the world. And so my father wanted to kind of recreate that tradition. He actually went to Switzerland and met with some of our family members that still live over there, went and visited some of these villages that were making cheese and turning it, the farmers were the ones making the cheese. And I think that's really where he decided that's what he wanted to do here.
And at that point, were you in the business? Were you in school? Were you like, Dad, you're crazy, or this is pretty cool?
I think I was a sophomore or a junior in high school when we started making cheese. And I was free labor at that point. So, we would make cheese on the weekends, or we would make cheese after hours when I would get out of school, because my dad had one employee that was a cheesemaker, and then I was the laborer. I was the one that could help move stuff around and do that. So, I didn't have a whole lot of a choice. I really thought that it was cool to be able to go into a store and know exactly where that piece of cheese came from. I mean, that always intrigued me because even like when my father was a kid, you lose ownership of the product. And I think, it's always kind of cool to, you're in high school and you try to impress a girl, hey, we make our own cheese. What do you think about that? Or, you try to tell your buddies when you're walking through the store, hey, look at that product. That came from our farm. It is pretty cool to be able to do that. And traditionally in the dairy business, there aren't a whole lot of opportunities to be able to do that.
And maybe you'll remember, maybe you don't remember, but I think the story goes very similar to, anybody that's out there making a product, whether it's a jam or you're you know, a beef company, and your first step is, I've got a product. Now I'm going to go to a farmer's market. From a farmer's market, how do you graduate into either retail or food service channels? Is that kind of the same upbringing that you guys had? Like, all right, now we got cheese. Like, where do we go and sell this? Or do you remember a strategic plan that was there?
There was very little to nothing of a strategic plan. Um, and that's one of the things that we look back and we completely overlooked how hard it is to sell a product, even if it's got your own name on it, even if the customer is talking to the farmer, you still have to convince that consumer, whether it's a chef or whether it's someone walking the grocery store aisles, you have to convince them why they deserve or why you deserve to be in their cart. Why do you deserve to be on the menu? There's so many good products out there. And I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier of you have to have a compelling story and you have to have a great product. Now, getting back to the early days of farmers markets and how we did that, my dad's he's a dairy farmer. He's been a dairy farmer his whole life. He started the cheese company when he was in his 50s. So the art of selling was really never taught to him, or was really never taught to my sister Laura or myself. But my dad would give us a box of samples, and he would say, "Hey, go take it to that restaurant that just opened up across town." My sister Laura and my sister Elaine would do farmers markets. They would also go out and try to sell to people that they knew in the community. And I can remember being humbled really quickly. I think I barely had a driver's license, and I was taking boxes of cheese into restaurants, and I had no idea what type of sales pitch I needed. I'm thinking, here, I've got this good tasting cheese. My last name's on the product. What more could they want? Well, the first question is, what's the price and what distributor can I go through? And, I'm immediately thinking, I never asked my dad any of those questions. What do I do now? So then the next call, okay, now I've got the price list, and we've got that one distributor that might be able to distribute to this customer. And so it was really humbling in the beginning to know how much we didn't know. And we're still learning every single day. I mean, the food service, retail, distributor relationships and how all of those operate, they're changing every day. Consumers are changing what they want, in what size, in what format, with what attributes does this product have that warrants me paying the price for it. And so we're still going at it, 23, almost 24 years later. We're still learning how to keep up with consumer trends and how to have the highest level of customer service that we can possibly have.
You've had a front row seat to, scaling a brand within distribution. What are some realities that come to play in trying to get your product within the channels that maybe cause some forehead bruising or frustrations? And again, I think some of this is painting a reality to distributors that maybe maybe we in this side of the world need to make selling more accessible. And, I've kind of thought it'd be fun if there was a distributor out there that did some kind of like little Shark Tank twice a year that said, hey, twice a year we bring on emerging new brands, come pitch us your product. Because you always have to be constantly evolving and thinking about new products. You can't have tunnel vision and think like your product set is done. Like, the best distribution companies are constantly evolving and looking for top products. So, you're on one side of the fence and you experience it firsthand. What are you seeing, hearing that, could be better or more efficient?
I will say that, you know, all of our distributor partners have been absolutely crucial in helping us grow this business. Now, in the same breath, we didn't always get the answer that we wanted when you go into a distributor meeting and you say, how can I move more product? What do I need to do? Well, you need to have a promotional calendar. You need to stay relevant. You need to stay in front of your customers. You've got to make sure that you're offering, the highest quality at a competitive price, and that customers are calling for your product, that they're reordering, that they're wanting it. So just getting your product approved and stocked in distribution, that's the easy step. Then how do you go meet with the potential customers, the chefs? Who do you have within your network that's outside of your local area that can help you scale that can meet with chefs on your behalf, that can meet with retailers on your behalf, and that can represent you? And I think that's where we've really learned in the last, I'll even say 5 years, because really going into COVID, I felt like we had some momentum of kind of knowing what we needed to do, which was a terrible time to gain momentum going into a pandemic. But I think, the one thing we've done is we've asked the simple questions. Okay, distributor, what do we need to do? What customers are our products a fit for? And then how can we reach them? And I think that more often than not, the distributor is going to help you with that. You just have to go do the work. And I think that's where a lot of people sometimes they fall flat of, oh, well, I got it into the distributor. I thought the job was done. It's like that's the easy part. You got to be on the street. You got to be in the back of the kitchen. You got to stay in front of these chefs and in front of your customers. That's the name of the game.
You're 100% right. Getting in can be one of the most challenging, and it could be the easiest part of the equation. It's like they're both sides of the sword there. And I've said to brands before, there's 5 things I believe that great brands do to complement a distributor. Have and create a relevant brand, right? Like, what are you doing to do that? That is connecting, that's content, that's social, that's, chefs are asking for the product, right? Have to have a nice quality product that resonates with people, but ultimately creating a relevant brand. Build relationships with your distributor partner, right? If you just think you're going to set up a item code and like we're done, start sending us POs, that doesn't necessarily happen, right? You have to build relationships, and now, in my opinion, you've got to do it at the procurement level. You have to get to know your people that are buying the product. You have to get to know your leadership at the distribution company because they're going to have influence in the way that you move product, right? So it's okay to send a sample box to the sales manager or whatever. Like, you want them eating your product. You want them knowing you. That way they can encourage and, foster that relationship and create conversation. The next is you want to have a relationship with the sales team. You want to get to know them. Go step foot, in the distribution center, do a sales meeting, email them, text them, FaceTime them, create value with the distributor partner. And there's a lot of salespeople that don't want a relationship. It's a very transaction. Look, I just go take orders, and that's what I do. The people that thrive and do well for themselves and do well for you are going to build a relationship with you. The newest one, in my opinion, is the relationship with the marketing team. Now content is such a relevant thing for distributor partners because they've got LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, insert social media in addition to their own e-commerce platform. They've got e-blasts that they're doing. They've got their own internal metrics. Maybe you got a Fiscalini cooler and you want to do a giveaway for the person who sells the most in a month, right? Like you have to engage the marketing. So for people or four departments you really need to nurture in. You need to put in the work. You said that. Like you need to go beat the streets. You need to bring some business their way. Four is create engagement, and that is also building a brand digitally that creates dialogue both with chefs and with the sales team and follow up and follow through, right? Like you need to follow up on the samples, the pricing, when you're coming to market next. And that goes both ways. The salesperson needs to follow up and follow through, and you have to do that. But for those brands out there that are wondering, how can I really like bolster sales? You can do that. Now, also, there comes to the equation of, and I'm super small. I live in Modesto. How do I scale my business? Because I've got to be here. There's other avenues, and those distributor partners can help you and say, hey, you need to talk to XYZ, or we can run a promotion, let's work marketing. But ultimately, creating engagement and dialogue with your distributor partner is one of the healthiest things that I think you can do as you build your brand. Uh, what what challenge prevents you and maybe others from scaling or getting cheese from Cali to Florida or to another part of the U.S.? What are some of those challenges that you're faced with?
When you're a small producer like we are, and you're playing in the premium category, um, transportation obviously it's a challenge. I'm not saying anything that we don't know. It's cheaper for me to get a product to San Francisco than it is to get it to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm 60 miles away from San Francisco, and I'm on the other side of the country from Atlanta. So transportation is definitely one of those challenges because it adds cost to the product. The other one is that you're no longer, the further away from home you go when you're a small product like ours, the familiarity isn't there. So in our local area, and even northern and southern California, our target consumer knows who Fiscalini is because they've seen it at a high end restaurant, or they've gone and shopped at their preferred grocery store that they go to. Maybe they've seen some of our marketing campaigns or our social media, but there's some really great small cheesemakers and producers of food near Atlanta and in New York. And I understand why consumers want to support their local brands. That stays there in their community, and that's why we try to focus on staying in the West Coast. And then when we look at a new market, to make sure that it's a fit. Is there a good food scene there? Are there a lot of white tablecloth restaurants? Is this where our brand belongs? Because we have to stay true to our identity, and we've never had the mindset to scale this business at a level that we can no longer manage it or no longer feel like we can get our arms around it. And to be honest, I don't know that we have the capital to do that either. It's a small family business, and we try to make sure that we take really good care of our people, and that we're more than competitive how we pay people and the benefits that we have. And so that does make it a challenge in a business of our size. Is sure Can we double or triple? Do we have the capacity to do so? We do, but we have to do it very strategically. Um, or if there's some mistakes that if we make, it's going to be hard to rebound from. And that's what we're really trying to make sure that we just stay true to who we are. We've got some really great partners. We have a very loyal consumer base. And if we can just grow that year over year, and still have it be a family-owned small business that stays true to our values, then I think we would deem that to be successful.
We live in a very global environment today. We're more connected than we've ever been. We can recognize trends through social media because of, um, our connectivity. If you look at Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, they're often publishing, new food trends, and you see so many different global aspects of culinary that move into it. You know, 10, 15 years ago, local artisan movement really made a push into virtually every region of North America. Now I feel like what I'm seeing is kind of a drawback of, like, people of course want to use local when possible, but they're wanting to focus on the best ingredients that they can use for the money that they can buy, regardless of geography. And one of the things that, because I've helped other local regional growers go to market, is just because you're local doesn't mean you're good, right? Like, there's a lot of local people that, as they say in the South, bless their heart, but it's just not, at the end of the day, pound for pound, the same as a product that you may be producing. One of the things that I've loved about your product is kind of, dare I say, the narrowness that you focused in, where you see a lot of cow's milk producers in the U.S. They put virtually every pepper jack thing into their cheese market, and you have 30 different jack cheeses, or types of Colby, etc. Talk a little bit about the depth of the product that you guys have and where you focus, and kind of the differences in cheeses that you guys have selected.
Yeah, so it was always my father's vision to make sure that we produce the best tasting cheeses that we possibly can. We were never interested in being a commodity product. We were never interested in being an average product. Um, and we knew that that's really the only way that we could survive the cheese business as well. I can't compete with the large commodity producers out there. They do an excellent job making the products that they make, but they have done it for years. They've achieved economies of scale that'll never be able to. And so for us, we knew that we always are going to be playing in the super premium cheese category. We're a highly recognized, award-winning cheese company. People don't go, seeking out our cheese um, because of it's a mild yellow cheddar, right? They don't go there for that. And mild yellow cheddar has its place, but that's not where we want to compete. That's not where we want to be. And I think that the products that we've made all have a compelling piece to the puzzle that we're still putting together, which is the story of our cheese making journey. Our old world cheddar, our first cheesemaker, Mariano Gonzalez, was known for making cheddar cheese, and he brought it to California. And the California Milk Advisory Board was helping us out at the time and said, no one in California is really making an aged cheddar. You think you guys could do that? Sure, let's give it a shot. Several years later, 3-time world's best farmstead cheese and 5-time best farmhouse cheddar in North America, we're still making that product. The San Joaquin Gold was really what we call our gold medal mistake. We were trying to make a Fontina, batched, we botched the recipe. We didn't have all the right equipment. We were using a different culture. We we're making it in different size wheels than you typically would. We entered it into a competition, and the judges said, "Hey, great job, but you entered it in a category that it doesn't belong in. So congratulations, you just created a cheese by mistake. What do you want to call it?" And my dad kind of using that European trend or the European tradition, I should say, of naming the cheese after the area for which it's made. We're in the San Joaquin Valley of California, and he called it gold at a attempt at humor because it won a gold medal in its first competition. So that was San Joaquin Gold. The Leonza is a small town in Switzerland where we have family roots. So we named that cheese, Leonza, because of the town in Switzerland where that cheese is very much resemblant of a Alpine style cheese made in Switzerland. So those are all stories that our family created. You can't make that stuff up. You can't go buy it. You can't buy that story anywhere. And then the Purple Moon and the farmhouse cheddar, the smoked cheddar, that we hand dip each piece of cheese in wine. We built our own smoker because we didn't want to use any artificial or liquid smoke. I mean, the habanero cheddar that we make, we're using real fresh habanero peppers. We don't do anything that we wouldn't expect our consumers to absolutely fall in love with. And I think that's why we have the credibility that we do, and consumers trust us, and we have to keep their trust. We can't just go off and take shortcuts in what we've done really well for a long time. Now that we've built their trust, we have to maintain it, and we have to continue to earn it year over year. So that's something that we take very seriously.
Well, and I love the fact that the story is fantastic. The cheese is outstanding, but it's approachable. Like it's everyday price point for, um, you know, uh, mid to top tier restaurants, right? That are looking for a story. They're looking for a quality ingredient, either as a table cheese or an ingredient cheese, right? It's a versatile cheese that can hang by itself and stand out, but it also can heavily complement any dish. Later today, I'm going to do shrimp and grits with the farmhouse cheddar, so I'm excited about that. But um, you know, for chefs out there that are looking for something that can be a workhorse, right? That's what I love about Fiscalini. It's not categorized as just like it can only be on the cheese plate, right? Like you can wear many different hats, and I think when you have that versatility for a distributor, it gives you another reason to be interested in bringing a product like you guys on. And it's not just a one dimensional, fits only one product category. You can fit a wide variety of needs for a particular customer. And that's always a huge thing. One thing that's important for me always is talking about how technology is impacting the way that we do business. Talk a little bit about how technology is changing on the farm, the way that you run your business, make cheese, and just operate daily.
Yeah, we adapt to new technology quite often here, and one of those things is our methane digester, converting cow manure into renewable fuel. That's a technology that it's cool. Not everybody's doing it. We just recently put in robots that milk the cows. So we're now milking our cows in a robotic setting, so that the cows are on their own schedule. They can go and get milked whenever they want to. It's a little bit more of a low stress environment for our cows. And I think what's really interesting when you talk about technology is there are certain technologies that we can easily adapt. And then there's other technologies, if we were to try to mass produce our cheese, that we just won't do, right? Because then that'll change who we are and the traditional methods of cheese making that we do. It's also going to change the product, which is something that we're not willing to compromise. And then, regardless of how much technology you have, this is still a dairy farm. There are still cows, and they eat, breathe. We have to clean up their messes, right? There's some of those things that, while it's really hard work, it's part of the story, and it's part of the romance. I'll even go far as to using that word, when describing dairy cows. But it is part of the romance that we're not going to look at technologies that change the way that we care about our animals or the way that we make our cheese. It's just.
Well, I think regardless of industry, I've said before, you need to be curious about the technologies that exist, right? And some, maybe they're 5 years away from being there. It's cool, but it may not practically fit your working environment. And, I think technologies are not meant to eliminate human touch. It's really to complement or make you more efficient. And specific to the robotic milking, for those that don't know, talk a little bit about the process of what does that mean? What does it look like? And maybe how has that helped, changed, hurt staffing for you?
Yeah, so we embarked on this journey of converting our dairy farm to a robotic milking system. Um, about We did that in July, and so we're not even 7-8 months into this. And when we did that, there were several motivators behind doing it. One of them was just the job of milking cows is a very, very hard job. You're on your feet all day long. You're hooking machines up to cows. It's a very necessary job, but it's also a very hard job. And
Dirty job.
Yeah, that's kind of the rite of passage for all the kids that grow up on dairy farms is you got to milk in the barn, right? And so that's changing. And I think because there's a technology out there to make that job easier, we wanted to look at it. The other thing was it really helps improve our operation, and we allow the cows to kind of work on their own schedule now versus us saying, okay, we're going to go to this pen of cows, we're going to get all the cows at one time, bring them up to this barn, milk them as fast as we can, and they go back to their farm where they can eat, lay down, drink water. Now it's just, that hurry up game is not there like it was. It's more peaceful. It's definitely changed what our labor looks like, and we're able to have really highly motivated, highly engaged employees that have a much higher skill set for having to troubleshoot robots, for example, work with technology, work with an app, do things that the next generation of even farm workers are wanting. They are wanting that type of work versus I want you to stand on your feet for 10 hours a day and do this one job, right? There's not as much fulfillment in that job as there is in being able to work with technology and computers and apps and not have that just on the go hustle. It doesn't mean that we still don't have jobs that we have to hustle on here, but the milking job is something you cannot just stop. You can't just say, I'm not going to milk the cows today. Now we have a technology that's reliable enough to do that fairly labor free, if you will. So without anywhere near the amount of employees that it took to do that job manually.
How many machines do you have? And so you've got to milk every day, multiple times. So you have 1,400 head. Not all of them are milked, right?
Of the 1,400 head, those are all milking.
Okay, so all 1,400. Okay. And from a piece of machinery, how much can each of those machines handle? and maybe what again are the benefits that provides you, visibility of production, right? Like, do you know who your top performing cow is and who the least performing, and does that lead you into maybe something's not wrong or right with this cow? We should probably go and look and see if they're not feeling well.
Yeah, and what's really awesome is that that technology existed even before we put robots in to be able to monitor animals on a cow to cow basis. Um, so we had that technology even when we were milking cows in our parallel barn, and now that we're milking in a robotic setting, we've got more data that we need to analyze, and we have to use that. But we also do have some new pieces of data that we didn't have in the past to help us continue to improve the health of the animal, the quality of the milk, and make this farm something that my kids will want to come back to, right? That they will look at the technology and the types of jobs that exist on this farm and say, that's cool, that's innovative, that's something that intrigues me. I want to come back to the family business and learn how to do that, right? And I think that's where we're struggling. I think overall as a society is how many jobs are out there that people are really that excited about coming to do every day. And it's hard. I mean, talking about animal livestock, right? It's a tough business. It's not easy, and it's never going to be easy. But I think if there's ways we can make it more exciting and more challenging, I think we're going to have a better opportunity to attract the next generation.
Yeah, I see the same in distribution from a standpoint of, mom and dad ran the produce company or whatever the company is, and they've seen them work tirelessly because that's just what it took, and it was very manual, and you handwrite, and you've got carbon paper invoice, and it just is the way it's been. And the son or daughter looks at the business and they're like, ugh, I don't want to enter in that mess, right? I got my accounting degree and I can go live in San Fran and, work in a better setting. So we're at a transition point of people that are looking to invest in technology to make their jobs more efficient, use data to help them make those decisions. I don't talk to dairy farmers very often or, farmers just in general about this, but, for someone that is in a family business that you're the next generation taking over the older generation that may not be interested in technology, what advice would you give them to at least explore, consider how data has helped you be able to make better decisions, become a better version of yourself?
Well, you've always got to look at what technology exists to give you a competitive advantage. What's really hard in the dairy industry specifically is, for the most part, dairy farmers are not necessarily competing against other dairy farmers, right? Because they're selling commodity fluid milk. And in that case, you have to do that cost effectively. We have an opportunity to produce a value added products. And so I think that's where small producers like us, I mean, even though I said we're a 1,400 cow milking dairy operation, we're not a very large farm. It's still a fairly small dairy farm in the big scheme of things. So how we remain competitive and how do older generations maybe look at technology when they've done it the same way for a long time, that's tough, especially in the dairy business. I mean, I have a lot of friends in this business, and it's becoming harder and harder to stay in business as a dairy farmer that sells milk off the farm to another company who will then process it into milk, butter, cheese, ice cream, yogurt, whatever it may be.
For those that don't know, from a perspective standpoint, what size operation are those larger, more I don't want to say factory farms, but if you're a cheese making operation or dairy, how does it compare to where you guys are?
I think in California the average size of a milking dairy farm is approaching 2,000 cows.
Okay.
That's about the average size. So, and there's reasons for that. I don't necessarily think that big is bad. I definitely actually don't think that big is bad. We are in an industry that has caused people to get bigger so that they can produce the product cheaper, because that's what the market is demanding. And we're going to have that discussion at some point. And I don't mean Ian and Brian having that discussion. I mean, as a society, if we still want really, really cheap food compared to a lot of other countries in the world that spend a lot more of their disposable income on food than we do in the United States, you're going to have to pay farmers more for it. And I know that's kind of an unpopular topic or discussion for people to have, but less than 2% of the world is producing 100% of the food.
Wow.
So who else is going to do it? There's not a lot of people on career day in your middle school or your junior high that are saying, I'm going to go out and become a farmer. It is not an easy job to do, but someone's got to do it, and we do it really, really well. I mean, we have some of the safest, most nutritious food in the world that's grown here in the United States. So I think we have to keep that in mind when we're having the discussion about the overall food system.
It's a fantastic statistic that I think more people need to chew on as they, people vote with their dollar at the end of the day. You can talk a big game of what you want to happen, but, the way that you purchase is really going to continue to drive those decisions. So be mindful of that. We'll finish up with this question. Maybe it's two questions. One, when was the last time you cold called a chef?
When was the last time I cold called a chef? So if I go into a new restaurant that I haven't been in before, I'll usually ask, is the chef here? And on the chance that I happen to have brought some of our cheese with me that I can leave behind, I try to make an effort to do that.
You're not a backdoor guy? You're not going to just go walk in the back door and peek around, look for chef?
I don't do that. That's never been my style. And I respect the people that can and that will do that. But chefs are in a lot of ways similar to dairy farmers. And they're very, very busy. And they've got a lot of things going on back there that the rest of the public doesn't see. So really in any environment, I really try to respect other people's time, and you never know what that chef has had go right or wrong that day. And some guy like me walking into the kitchen unannounced, that can do more harm than good sometimes. So I really like the opportunity to meet with a chef outside of their element. So like at a food show, at an event, chefs are people too, right? They're going to be out in the community. They're going to be out at an event. They're going to be enjoying themselves. And if they walk up, hey, yeah, I'm the chef at this restaurant. Oh, that's awesome. Nice to meet you. Totally different conversation than when you're in the back and they've got 200 meals to get done in the lunch hour, right? It's a lot different conversation. So I don't cold call too many.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you're cold calling too often, but let's just envision that you have that opportunity. You have an audience. Leave us with the 30-second pitch while chef is chopping on the table and looking at you, saying, "All right, what do you got for me?"
Yeah, I mean, it would be 30 seconds, right? It would be, hey, chef, I can see you're busy. Really appreciate your time. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Brian Fiscalini, 4th generation dairy farmer, 2nd generation cheesemaker. We make some of the best cheeses in the world, and we do so by taking care of our cows, our people, and the land that we farm. I mean, we convert cow manure into vehicle fuel, and we make some of the best cheeses in the world. Here's a sample box. Have a great day. I mean, that would be it.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first, live and from the cow's mouth. Brian, I've enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully people have taken something away from the conversation on how to approach, selling into distribution, distributors' mindset when it comes to working with new and emerging partners. Give them a shot, help coach them. You don't have to do everything for them, but have that conversation. And um, the food service community, I believe, has it's like the recycle symbol. You've got a chef, you've got a brand, and you've got a distributor. And for the ecosystem to work, everyone has to work together. And so it really is a community within food service distribution. It shouldn't be us against them. It really is. We're all in it together, and we work together. We're partners in it. And so it's been great having you on. Thanks for the conversation. And you can find Brian at Fiscalini Farmstead. Just give that a Google, look him up on Instagram, and we appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ian. We obviously appreciate everything you're doing to spread the word of our brand and help us connect with more people.
All right. Everyone out there have a great one, and tune in for the next episode.